What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Madness of Deathwing encounter, the last boss in the Dragon Soul raid. To begin the fight, you will start off on one of 4 platforms. Each platform will have a dragon that brings 2 benefits to the raid. I will list the dragons in the order we did it. This does not mean that this is the only way of doing it. Obviously, with the achievement, this is the best way for our composition. So we started off on Ysera's platform. Her aspects will increase healing by 20%, and she'll also give you a button right here that when pressed you get 50% reduced damage by 2.5 seconds. It's mainly used in phase 2, which I'll talk about then, but Tank could use it in this phase for Impale, which I'll talk about later. Next we headed over to Xtraza's platform. Her aspect increases max health by 20%. She'll also burn down the blistering tentacles for you as long as her aspect is up. Next up is Naz Dormu. His aspect increases haste by 20%. He will also form a time zone in a specific spot on the platform, located here. This will slow any Elementium meteors that pass through and will slow the attack speed of enemies by 50%. And lastly is Caligos. His aspect will increase damage dealt by 20%. He will also cause attacks and abilities to cause spell weaving. Spell weaving inflicts about 23,000 arcane damage to enemies within 6 yards, excluding the current target. And also when switching platforms, you'll gain a stacking debuff, which increases movement speed by 60%. So switching platforms is very quick. So now that we know what all the dragons do, let's talk about how to handle the platform. Start off by DPSing Deathwing's limb. Shortly after, a huge tentacle called Mutated Corruption will spawn in the back, which does 2 abilities, one of which is Crush. It will crush the tank for 100,000 physical damage in a frontal cone, so don't stand where the tank is standing. The second one is Impale, which will impale the tank for 400,000 damage. So you're going to have to pop a cooldown to survive. Impale will also leave a debuff on the tank that increases Impale damage by 100%. So we use 2 tanks rotated Impales. What we're doing here is once each platform, Deathwing will shoot an Elementium bolt at a specific point on the ground. He will put a impact marker on the ground, and if you have time zone, the bolt will be slowed and you can DPS without having to stack, but since we don't have time zone on this one, we all have to stack. The further away you are from the place of impact, the less damage you will take, but after it impacts, it will pulse AoE damage that it will be constant no matter how far away you are, and it still needs to be DPS down even if it impacts. We stacked up for more efficient AoE healing, and so we popped some raid cooldowns here and a few personal cooldowns to survive. You don't have to stack up if you don't want to. It's your best option though. And all DPS should switch to the Elementium Bolt when it comes out. After it's down, switch back to the Mutated Corruption if it's not down yet, and after it's down, switch back to Deathwing's Limb. Shortly after, he will spawn little slimes called Regenerative Blood, which you just seen as AoE down there. What they will do is increase 10 energy every 1 second. When they reach 100 energy, they will heal to full. You can see we had one little straggler heal to full before we could AoE him down. Lastly is Blistering Tentacles. They will spawn on Deathwing's limb at 66 and 33%. Each tentacle will put a stacking debuff on you for 2500 fire damage every 2 seconds. So this does a lot of damage. You want to get them down as soon as you can. And that is it for phase 1. It's just rinse and repeat for all 4 platforms. Once all 4 platforms are cleared of his limbs, his head will fall onto Ysera's platform. So all DPS head there and start nuking his head. After phase 2 starts, you'll have a few seconds of straight DPS on Deathwing's face. A little bit after, he will spawn 3 Elementium fragments. They're little tentacle looking things, they're right there. Each one will target a player and cast shrapnel. What shrapnel will do is cause 200,000 damage. If you get casted by this, you need to press your button, which you have all 4 aspects back and all 4 abilities back. Next, he will spawn 2 Elementium Terrors, and all DPS need to switch these as soon as possible and kill them as soon as possible, because they will place a stacking debuff. Each time the stack is placed, it will cause 60,000 damage, and it will tick for 20,000 damage each stack for every second. Tanks need to tank them in the time zone for this, so it will slow their attack speed, reducing the amount of stacks you'll gain. But in this fight, you'll see at the end, we die on the second set. We just didn't have the cooldowns, and the stack got way too high. Deathwing will cast Corrupted Blood throughout Phase 2, which inflicts fire damage every 2 seconds. The damage increases at 15%, 10%, and 5%. And that is pretty much Phase 2. So now that you know and have seen all the abilities, I'm going to reset the fight so that you could see how we handled everything throughout the entire fight. Keep in mind the ways that we do things are not the only way. Every single ability has its own way to be handled. It's just whatever best suits you. Well, I hope you enjoyed my video. I hope this helped you out, and have fun and good luck.